Shalom. This is an emergency broadcast alert, giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rekakadash, in whom we are in great debt. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well, continue doing so, standing firm in the eyes of Terah, who I learned this truth from. To the elders, the bishops, Akim and Aquab, salutations and blessings to the house of David. We are the hopeful elect, the GMS. This is your brother Quasiar with a lengthy video. Really, I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I made several attempts to make it, and no matter how I looked at it, there is no other way to do this video but to do a lengthy video. And so I lose track sometimes when I start making these long videos of certain things. So the Lord has given me the opportunity to bring this forward, and I'm not going to disappoint him. So I asked the Lord, which is the best way to do these things, that I could get my point across, that I could be understood. And he says, keep it simple, stupid. Like always. And what I'm going to do is, when I feel that I might be losing track of what I'm reading, or that because sometimes your brain misfires. Let me just put it like that, for lack of better words. You need to stop. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the video maybe 20 to 30 minutes long. I'll stop. I'll pause. I'll pray to the Lord, Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, that I should continue, and we will continue until we get this point across, because it is important. The hopeful elect, the GMS, we already know the imposters. We already know who they are. We already know that Arabia, or the Arabians, took part in our enslavement. The Moab, Moab, all the other tribes, period. But mostly, it began with the Arabians and Esau Edom. All right, there was a conflict. There's always a conflict there with our cousin, and should I say, they used to, because in reality, if we go back to spiritual connections, and let's leave it at that, the spiritual connection, we can see through the scriptures that there are cousins, our Arabs are our cousins, and Esau Edom, so-called white man, is our brother. But that was cut off because of their treacherous, or should I say, to all the things that they have done to our people in general. And so, why do I have this picture before you? Well, the Lord gave me a name the other day, right? Which I never heard in my life. I didn't know. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know if it even existed. All right. So that's to show you that if Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai wants you to receive something, if he wants you to know something, he'll give you exactly what you need to research the matter. There's no ifs or buts. I have the spirit and you're talking gibberish. I have the spirit and you're saved. That's stupidity. Because when you're explaining something that the Lord Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, has done, he gives you the tools you need to explain that. So, well, if you study, of course, you will be able to explain it the way he intended for people to hear it. Nevertheless, like I said, I'm going to take it really slow with this because it is kind of lengthy. There's a lot to read. And I just want to add also that Esau Edom, so-called white man, and his grandson Amalek, not only do they have paperwork, books, and they have taught their children who we are and who they are, they continue to oppress us because they understand. How do they understand? Because they know from the very beginning. They have all the documents. They have living proof, okay, of what they have done. And they can connect the dots very simple. They teach their children, well, the ones they want to know, because they don't teach all their children everything. All right, just the ones that are willing to do the evil things that need to be done to keep the children of Israel in this hell, Salakia. So, without further ado, let's just go into, right, because when you're doing research, a lot of the things are being blocked because, you know, they don't want you to know a lot of things. And so sometimes the Lord gives them tools that they put their mouth, they put their foot in their mouth, you know. They mess it all up. And so by them creating ChatGPT, you know, the things that they have blocked ChatGPT, if you ask them, you know, you ask it differently, you know, if you go around certain things and you ask questions differently, you know, it tells you the truth. It tells you, it can't help it but tell you the truth, because, see, when it starts lying is when it comes to modern day living. But when you start asking questions of ancient ways, ancient things, and you refer to it as it were, it can't lie to you. See, the changes started with America and the Russians, not before. Or should I say, the Germans. Anyways, so my first question. Oh, by the way, this is the second part. This would be first, second, third, fourth, fifth video. I don't know how many videos that I will be making on the fact that the word that I'm talking about is Bahrain. All right, I had never heard that word. I made one video. I explained the video, and that would have been part one, and this is part two on that video. Salakia. That's another thing. Scammers calling you. Okay, so let me see. So this is the video I made. It's just the name Bahrain. All right, that's how I started. And it says it is a day ago. I'm pretty sure it was 2 days ago, but it doesn't matter. Now I know everybody wants to go and let's go into the point. Get to the point. I would like to do that, but I want to read the things that I found, because through ChatGPT, you know, and like I said, if you really know and understand what you're into when it comes to Yahweh Shem Shai, you be patient. You need to have patience. A lot of it. A lot of it. Patience, you know, pray for virtue, pray for understanding, more understanding, pray for love of brethren. You're going to need all that, man. You know, mercy, faith, you know, spiritual power. We're going to need all that. And it's important that we have patience to receive those things, because the Lord is not going to give it to you right away, because the prophecies needs to unfold, you know. And so those spiritual powers will unfold as prophecy is being fulfilled. So without further ado, again, so I ask ChatGPT, Bahrain, ancient Persian, and persecution of Israel. The relationship between Bahrain, ancient Persia, and Israelites site at the intersection of archaeology. Take, keep a note of this, all right? Intersection of archaeology, all right? Keep that in mind, because ChatGPT, well, should I say Esau Edom, so-called white man, has infiltrated. They made ChatGPT. Is that ChatGPT cannot help itself but to reveal truth, although it might tell you a lie in between. So you have to pull out those bones and enjoy the meat. The relationship between Bahrain, ancient Persia, and the Israelites sites at the intersection of archaeology, imperial history, and biblical tradition. Imperial history and biblical tradition. But it's important to separate what's well documented from what's speculative. All right? And since this is where Esau Edom likes to put his 2 cents in. Bahrain in antiquity. Modern day Bahrain was known in antiquity as Dilmun. Now keep in mind that word Dilmun also, because it plays a part at the end, at the very end of this lesson. Modern day Bahrain was known in antiquity as Dilmun, a major trading hub in the Persian Gulf from around 3000 to 500 BCE. It connected Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and the Arabian Peninsula. Dilmun appears in Mesopotamia texts as a prosperous, peaceful land. There is no strong historical evidence directly linking Bahrain, Dilmun to Israel's persecution. Now, you see how it's telling you that there's no link? But if you look to see what Dilmun is, which I'll tell you that you'll see, Dilmun is linked to Babylon and the people who were calling themselves under another name. Yeah. So those gutter rats always been there behind every evil deed that has happened to Israel. They always been there. Keep in mind, I ask certain questions and it goes back and forth. And there's 150-year difference between different captivities, but nevertheless, those gutter rats were always there. That's the point. Anyway, ancient time, ancient Persia and the Israelites. The history between Salakia. The history becomes clearer when we look at ancient Persia, especially under the Achaemenid Empire. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you can see how it is. You can see what it is. 550 to 330 BCE. Salakia. Key events. Babylonian exile. You see this? This is Babylonian exile initiated by the Babylonian, not Persia. That's not my point, though. You see, Bahrain, ancient Persia, and the persecution of Israel. You see what I asked? So you have to see. I didn't ask it if it was Persia that persecuted the Israelites. I just threw something wild. In other words, I just threw something out there, and look what it's coming up with, right? So let's move on. So rather than persecuting Salakia. So rather than persecuting Israelites, the Persian Empire is generally remembered for ending their exile and supporting their restoration. Now, sure, there is a king in the scriptures that is accounted for that that act, but that doesn't eliminate the things that the Arabians did to Israel. None at all. But let's just keep moving. Let's just keep moving. Because not only the Arabians, but the Egyptians and so on and so on. And we know the history. We know some of the history. It's just this land specifically, right? This is what the Lord calls this sector of the world. This part of the world is where the Third World War is going to ignite from, right? There's a reason for it. There's a reason for it, right? There's definitely a reason for it, and I didn't know. I had a good, like, not that I didn't know, because I knew. It's just details that we don't know. Like, there's certain details that you're not told, so you have to go in and dig. That's more what I wanted to say. So here it says, however, the biblical story of the book of Esther. You see what happens? This is what happens. Let me go back here, right? It says, so rather than persecuting Israelites, the Persian Empire is generally remembered for ending their exile and supporting their restoration. We know, later on, they allow Israel to rebuild the temple and so on and so forth, right? So we're going to get to that. But in the meantime, was there Persian persecution? And it says there is no strong historical consensus that the Persians systematically Well, but it says, see how it says systematically, but there was some persecution there. Anyways, persecuted the Israelites. However, see, however, the biblical story of Esther describes a plot to destroy Jews within the Persian Empire under King Ahasuerus. These names often linked to Xerxes. Wait a minute. I thought there was none persecution. You know how long that? Have you heard of the 300? That's another story to get into, right? Hello. You know, I might want to see. I just added something else to the scripture. I mean, to this video. Salakia, that was a slide of the tongue. I didn't mean to say that. What I meant to say that I just added more. You know, this search just added more scripture to this video. Salakia. So before I read the scripture, this says here. This is a common, AI overview. The Bible speaks of the 300 men who fought with Gideon against the Midianites in Judges chapter 7 and 8, a period located in the early Iron Age, approximately 1200 to 1100 BCE. This event took place during the era of the biblical judges, a time characterized bicycle. Why would say bicycle or bicycle? I don't understand. Give me a second. What sounds like a bicycle to me, of oppression and deliverance following Israel's settlement in Canaan. Wow. Key details on the 300 in Judges contest. The Most High ordered Gideon to reduce his army of 32,000 to only 300 men to ensure victory was a tribute to divine power rather than human strength. That's my point right there, because this is what we're heading towards. Okay, this is the importance of worshiping Yahweh and Yahushai and giving him all glory and honor. All right, to whatever we read and understanding, because he's the one that's giving us this power to understand and and break these things down for you. Okay, so if nothing is done, nothing will be done or is done without the power of Yahweh and Yahushai. All right, you can go to the scripture and because I got a lot I have a lot to go on. Okay, so wherefore let's continue, and we was at the biblical Esther describes a plot destroying Jews within the Persian Empire under King Ahasuerus. After link to Xerxes. This account is debated. Some view it as historical, others see it as literally or symbolic. You see what happens? See what happens when Esau, well, anyways, let's continue, because we're just trying to make a specific point, which is, Esau Edom, so-called white man, and his dirty works, and his downfall, and how it's revealing, right? The Lord is revealing everything, right? Because this is what the brotherhood is talking about today. How Esau, Edom, so-called white man, is being revealed. Okay? He's the devil the Bible speaks of. Where Bahrain fits in, okay, during the Achaemenid period. Achaemenid, Achaemenid. Oh man, these words. So it's during the Achaemenid period. Bahrain. Oh, here it goes. Bahrain, Dilmud, likely fell under Persian influence or control. It functioned mainly as a trade and administrative outpost, not a center of Israel, or should I say Israelite history. You see what happens? They deny the people constantly. Because who were the people who was constantly enslaved and prosecuted throughout time, man? In and out. Prosecuted. And every time, you were, oh, the Lord, should I say, Yahweh Shai relieved you from a persecution, you fell into somebody else's hands. All right, moving on along. The bottom line: persecution of Israelites, primarily associated with Babylon, not Persia. Ancient Persia, known more for liberation and tolerance than oppression of Jews. Bahrain, Dilmun, importance, trade hub not directly tied to Israelite persecution narratives. Keep this name or this word fresh in your mind. If you want, I can dive deeper into the Esther story, Persia governance, or the archaeological evidence from Bahrain and how it connects to the wide Near East. And I said, yeah, man, I want to know. Great. Let's dig in, right? So it says, deeper, okay, the book of Esther, Persian governance, and archaeology in Bahrain, Dilmun, and how or whether they connect. The story of Esther, history, literature. The book of Esther is set in Persia Empire during the reign of a king often identified as Xerxes the first, called what was it? Did I say where is it? This pronunciation is crazy. Ukimudnip. Anyways, I think I said it right this time. I think I did it. That's what it says. Ukimudnip. Anyways, as we go along, Salakia for the background noise. They're doing construction in the building for like 3 years now, and it seems like it's not gonna finish for another 3 years. And this is what I gotta deal with. It's a torment. They only do this things to us, man. Everybody else gets moved out of the property, to a better place, etc., etc., until they finish. But that's besides the point, I suppose. That's part of our enslavement here in the daughter of Babylon. So, the core story: a royal official named Haman plots to annihilate the Jews across the empire. Wait a minute. So this guy, Haman, plots to annihilate the Jews across the empire? Esther, a Jewish queen, intervenes and saves her people. Well, you know how that went. Anyways, if you read the scriptures, the festival of Purim commemorates this deliverance, which it was harsh, but nevertheless, what historians say, there is no direct archaeological or Persian record confirming this event. I bet. You don't want to get into that one. Esau Edom does not want to get into that. The narrative contains accurate Persian court details, but also dramatic elements typical of literature. Many scholars see it as a diaspora story reflecting Jewish life under foreign rule rather than a strictly historical account. Oh, wait a second. So if it's foreign rule, why is it not a strictly historical account? Look, isn't America a historic account? The shit that's happening here, isn't it historic? Come on. Anyways, I think we're going to stop it here. Pause, and we'll be moving on to part 3 of this video. And Salakia, because it's better that we do it this way, because sometimes people don't want to stay watching a video that long, and if you cut it short, it might be a little intriguing to go back to it. So stay tuned for part 3. Shalom.